Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Death's Hangover. So, we made it through the first little tutorial section in the arcade mode, and we're on this cutscene, so that felt like a good place to stop, so let's continue. Har har, nothing can stop me. Now we don't know who's talking, but we can pretty well assume it's the one facing the screen, the character on the left. Look Andy, I'm a Batgirl. I'm Batgirl. So we're gonna get fairly silliness from the character on the right. We just defeated a bunch of bats and he is putting a bat on his head, even though he is been resurrected in a female body. Which, yeah, there's definitely some silliness around that, but also some weirdness around that. And is that literally all there is to say? Yeah. Interesting. What happened there? The game... I don't know what happened here. The game stopped going forward when I pressed A. And now my controller's not responding. Well, that's weird. I know I alt-tabbed out of the alt-tabbed out of the game in between the last recording, but it should have still had controller support. Well, let's see. I unplugged and replugged my controller. Now we can go forward. No, that was working though. I hit A once and it went forward. Then it just stopped working. Wow. And frankly, for PC games, DirectX input or direct input is pretty solid. I've never seen a game that have controller problems, and Steam is now trying to encourage people to use Steam inputs and Valve's own programming for controllers that will better support PlayStation controllers, whereas direct input is definitely designed around Microsoft controllers working on Microsoft Windows. But yeah, hopefully that does not happen in the middle of the game. That'd be very weird. Story continues. You're such an idiot, Bob. Bats are stupid. The intro at the beginning of this game used the word bastard a couple times, and it seems like idiot's fine, but it is kind of weird to have an Arkanoid game that otherwise would be fairly family friendly go very edgy with bloody, gory visuals and cursing, when the actual gameplay just doesn't really buy into that or need that. Of course, having a death theme around your Arkanoid game is also very weird. Bash are stupid. Yes, Bash is stupid. Is he eating the bat? Gah, giant. So now we have a boss fight. I guess we could have probably ended the last episode after the boss fight had I known it was here. Giant bat. What's Dracula's been feeding this thing? I want it dead. So death. What's the giant bat? Then it seems like we're gonna have to hit it. How many times is that? 10 times? And that will just be the boss fight. And then in this boss fight, we will be leaving via the door on the left here. Now, noticeably, there's going to be a difference between the boss, which is going to stay back, and the smaller bats, which are effectively just projectile weapons. But you fly through the ball flies through the bats. It doesn't bounce based on the it doesn't bounce on the bats when you hit them, that would be uncontrollable. And notably here, I'd also say that this game is fairly uncontrollable. We can't go to the right here. If you couldn't slow down the ball. That is in part because the screen is a little too square, and the playfield's a little too square, but also it's in part because the ball is just moving very fast. So we get a victory, and you can see the character on the left is smoking a cigarette. And we can see the indication that the character on the right is in the ball. Victory is still alive. I mean, good job, boys or girls. Haha. Won't Dracula be pissed? That be word. Death hint. Remember to press the X button to use a power up. You can switch power ups by pressing the Y button. So I'd assume beating that boss probably means we could start a little bit further in the castle next time. And I guess we're going to be shown exactly that. Although, maybe we have to make our way up a little bit further to get to that spot. We don't have any control here. I can't go to the right, for instance. And it does seem to me like we got only one lost soul in this lower section. If you look in the bottom dungeon there are 4 little white dots in the top right corner, and one of them is grayed out. So that probably means there were 2 lost souls on the main path, and then there were 2 lost souls in some kind of secret path that I don't know how we would have gotten to a secret path, but we do know they exist. And so that's probably the case for every region, at least until you get to the very top here, where it seems like there's only 3 souls and 1 soul. And almost certainly there's going to be a gameplay mode where you're going to be capable of playing a level until you collect all the souls, or replaying a level. Let's see. Objectives. What an amazing smell you've discovered, and I thought you two smelled bad. Well, that's not really an objective now, is it? I guess the box probably is just always labeled as objectives. Okay. Mostly, what you want to do is have your get as many upgrades as possible, but you're not likely to carry the upgrades around with you. I like how the game held off there and let you collect that last gold. But yeah, I do think if I am going to beat this game, I'm going to end up just slowing down the ball most of the time. I wouldn't want to meet the monster that made those poops. Yep. But yeah, if you can get the ball into a system where it will hit the backboard as quickly as possible, you move forward. Of course, moving forward may not be your only objective. In this case, since we only have 3 lives, it probably is our only objective, because you're not likely to gain 1 life per level. So risking 1 life per level to gain less than 1 life per level is probably not worth it. It's time like these, I'm glad I have no nose. And I assume we probably should save power-ups until we really need them, maybe boss fights. And we could switch our power-ups. I do feel like there's a lot more you could be doing in these levels. And I guess if we're hitting poops on the ground, this is very reminiscent of The Binding of Isaac, which this would be an interesting comparison of a game compared to The Binding of Isaac, where The Binding of Isaac as a game became very popular, partially because of a lot of streamers streaming it, and just partially because of it being lucky, but mostly because it has just a massive amount of extra content added to it. Whereas I just don't think the controls probably are tight enough, and the gameplay style is probably popular enough that you could take a game like this, a ball and bat game, and just constantly add more and more content to it to make people interested in playing it. Inherently, you have just a mountain of apathy of people who have never played an Arkanoid clone or Arkanoid originally, and even if they were to play it in modern time, would just see it as an oddity. They wouldn't see it as the style of game that you'd want to control. Where The Binding of Isaac is a top-down twin-stick shooter, there's a lot more top-down twin-stick shooter controlling style games. You're controlling an actual human instead of controlling a human that's controlling a bat. In this game, and every room you get into, every level in Binding of Isaac has a wide variety of enemies and strategies to take out those enemies, where it's all going to be fairly samey in this game. Another loose soul, trust Dracula to hide it down here. So we want those souls. Interesting, there is a element here in the we're only going to get one, unfortunately. There's flowing water or sand on the ground, and it is affecting the trajectory of the ball. And that's just not something you would actually be able to even program in the original Arkanoid. In fact, there's just way too much stuff, way too many enemies moving around that you wouldn't really have been able to program or build in the original Arkanoid. But then there is also a weirdness in here that you can't get that too crazy with a ball and paddle game either. You can't have deep, complex AI characters wandering around, picking up the ball, moving it from one place to another. If you did have that, even, it would feel much more like a pinball game. And yes, this is somewhat reminiscent of a pinball game. In fact, it's actually fairly reminiscent of what pinball games would have been pre-flippers, when pinball games originally just had pins in them and no flipper. But it is kind of weirdly one flipper. Oh look, another room full of poop. Well, you know what to do. Yeah. It might be the case that it's not really changing the trajectory as much as it is changing. No, I think it is literally changing the trajectory too. But it's also kind of slowing down things. And so even slowing this down, it's going to be difficult to get this to hit the right place. But now we have like a gun ability. Although weirdly, I lost my gas ability at some point. Probably when I died. Better watch out for those rats. Their bite are worse than their smells. So why are we starting with 3 balls? And notice that the balls don't interact with each other. So this is a sub-boss, and I would assume what's going to happen here is we'll have a variety happen where suppose I could probably lose all 3 of the balls. I got a 1-up by going over 5,000 points. So I did lose 1 ball there. But yeah, I would expect it wouldn't always be just a sub-boss with a bunch of small enemies and then a boss battle immediately after that. That told me there's a poop monster ahead, although you can hardly trust him. A poop monster, he must be real poop. And here you can see our comedy character covering in poop or mud. Take your pick. It adds something. I don't know if it's always going to be welcome to have a story here, but like, it definitely adds something. It's a way of an independent game developer showing what kind of story they would like to tell or how they could write a story. It isn't that much as far as quality writing, but it does make your game stand out a little bit. It gives you a different kind of screenshot to put on Steam at the very least. There is noticeably a lot of games on Steam that have the exact same screenshots over and over again, and very often when you're looking at games deciding whether they're worth your time or not, seeing the exact same screenshots just tells you the game is going to be very samey and not that interesting. You also run into a case where a lot of low effort games on Steam have screenshots that are literally just pictures of a background that was probably generated just using pre-made assets from something like the Unity Asset Store. You'll see forests with no characters in them. You'll see hallways with no monsters in them. Particularly in horror games, you'll just see here is a bunch of rooms that are empty, and that tells you almost nothing about how the game actually will play. He can't be harder than the stupid giant bat. Better watch our step though. Or I think I stepped in poop. Oh, another boss monster. I think I left my oven on. I'll be going now. Alright, so now I have 2 balls. Now I have 1 ball. See, the thing here is I kind of would have to hold the A button to slow down the ball to shoot my ability, if I still had the ability. This guy's gonna shoot at me. And I have like 1 life left. Almost died there. And these pillars are affecting things. Let's see if we can hit this at the correct angle. I'm getting an achievement for beating these bosses, but I also definitely can see how this is just going to fall apart, and we're going to probably lose before we get to the end on the first run, even on easy, which I'm not sure I really would want that to. I really would want it to play that way. If I can't beat the game on easy through the main story all the way, then that doesn't put me on a particularly good path to want to potentially play it on a higher difficulty. It will be interesting to see if difficulty doesn't matter. Ideally it shouldn't, and you should just be able to beat the game on easy and then see whatever the other gameplay mode is, and then that would just be your experience. This won't be a super long game by the feel of it, but if it starts to just get more and more difficult, that could be a problem. We can see the character on the left now seems to have just mud or poop on their face instead of smoking a cigar, or maybe it's smoke. That almost certainly is due to the fact that we only have 1 life left. Victor, you really stink that place up. Good job, boys. On to the next area. And yeah, I think this is the better place to end this episode now. At the end of one area, we'll start the next area. It seems like we might be able to do a single area per episode. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.